I'm ready. This is Cover Your Assets. We've got Todd Rooker. You've got exclusive access to unparalleled financial expertise right here, 855-835-8500, all hour long. We've got Craig Nestor, Foreclosure Defense, and Derek Walgrave here. You got your short sale. We've got your investor opportunities for the new now. CoverYourAssets21.com is where you go to get started and to get your copy of the Financial Crisis Bible. Craig Nestor, we have the pleasure of having Jesse Kibort with Daniels and Wymore in studio.
Yeah, Jesse, one of our in-the-field champions, truly doing all things possible, using cutting-edge legal strategies to help people save their home. Jesse, you do have some unprecedented victories. Our results are, compared to the nation, off the charts. You have some significant competitive advantages. Tell us a little bit about how you're so successful in this field.
Well, the success comes from experience. It was about 3.5 years ago when a client came to me and said, I need help. This lender is going to foreclose on me. They're going to take my house. It's a house that I have lived in and I built with my hands and raised my kids in. Help me. And at that point, I was a business litigator. I didn't have any experience in the mortgage defense. I took it on and I said, you and me, we're together on this and we're gonna fight. Let's fast
Uncharted
forward.
waters at this point.
Absolutely. I've litigated and negotiated against Fortune 100 companies before, but never in this field, never doing mortgage foreclosure defense, never defending somebody's house from a bank in this way. And I said, we're both in this together because as long as you're willing to go with me in a learning process, I'm willing to defend you until the end. Let's fast forward 2.5, 3 years later. We now have a great settlement for that person. They were in their house. The bank refused to accept payments from them for over 2 years.
Wow.
Kept them in their house.
So the bank refused to take the payment.
What happened was they fell behind, like everybody else did about 3 years ago, or any time in between. And after they missed 2 or 3 payments, the bank said, you know what? We're going to accelerate your mortgage. It's what they do when they say now your entire mortgage is due. And so they stopped accepting payments. When they got back on their feet, they couldn't do anything.
So they wanted to make a payment.
They did.
And they weren't accepted.
Yes. 3 months after they've missed their payments, 3 payments they missed, the bank said, your entire mortgage is due. We're not going to accept any payments.
So I've fallen, I've gotten back up, I can make my payments.
So they really had no choice. They had no choice. They couldn't afford the full amount of the penalties, the payments, the principal, the interest, and the attorney's fees now, which had gone on top of it from the lender's side. And they had no choice. They came to me and we fought for over 2.5 years. And we came out with a victory.
Tell us about the victory. Yeah.
We got them an extremely low modification. These are clients that wanted to fight the bank to the end. They wanted to make a point. They said the bank was violating their rights, and they probably did this to countless people all over the country. But for them, in their best interest was to save this house that they built with their hands and raise their children in. And
wow.
So what we did is we got them one of the greatest modifications I've ever seen at a under 4% loan for 40 years.
Wow.
And with an entire, I can't say the numbers, but a huge, huge principal reduction, something that's almost unheard of these days with lenders agreeing to principal reductions. But it happens. We're able to do it.
How? I mean, really, how do you make these victories? How is this even possible with all the strife that's out there?
What is the leverage that you use to get that done?
Sure, and you have to have your, what I say, ducks in a row. Before you file a lawsuit, you have to make sure you're not just throwing out alleged facts.
We're not just wasting time or buying. No,
because these are lenders. These are Fortune 100 companies. These are the
with a law firm.
And what do Fortune 100 companies do? They buy expensive, good lawyers. I mean, these aren't dumb lawyers on the other side. They're very well trained and experienced lawyers. And you need to have something in your arsenal to combat that. And what we do is we have experts that look at loans that have done this for years. And when I send a loan and all of the documents out to an expert, they go through it with a fine-tooth comb. They find everything from what happened before the loan, what documents they provided to the closer or the mortgage company or the bank before the loan to qualify for that loan, how that process was handled up to closing with the disclosures, and how that process was handled at closing.
What are some of the things that this expert would find and uncover that gives this value to you in a courtroom?
Well, some of the main things are whether they could have even qualified for that loan. When, if you remember 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, everybody was getting loans for these. Anybody could qualify for a huge
No doc,
loan.
low doc, stated income.
Stated income
Negative
was a big
AM.
one. Negative AM. People were refinancing. They weren't looking at the documents. These brokers were everywhere taking advantage of people with these points and what's called a yield spread premium. There are good brokers out there that they still exist. That's the good brokers. The good brokers are still
After
around.
Dodd-Frank, are you sure?
The good ones are still around. The bad ones, they're gone.
Well, did the broker even know?
Sometimes the brokers knew, sometimes they didn't. But what happened was you'd get these documents, you'd get people to pay what's called points and unnecessarily. And so you'd have these huge loans that people couldn't afford because their debt-to-income ratio couldn't actually qualify for it. And so what I say is they were sold a bill of goods that they were set up to fail. And eventually, if any little bump in the road happened, you'll miss your payment because you can't afford it.
Sometimes people were in an interest rate that was higher than they qualified for, and you can uncover that. What else is available through this process?
Well, the mortgage process is very heavily regulated. Every time a mortgage document comes out, especially if it's with a bank that's insured by the FDIC or if it's any bank giving any loan for a certain amount of money, you have to meet certain requirements. And it's not just I sort of met the requirements. It is a strict compliance with the Truth in Lending Act, with the real estate procedures, and with HOPA, another federal law. You have to comply with it. And in Minnesota, we have our own statutes that protect our citizens and protect consumers against these lenders that are violating this stuff. So there are strict laws that you have to follow. And this expert who's been in this business for years will go through it and will find every single thing that is wrong. And I go through that what's called a report after the expert comes back with a very lengthy, thorough report. I go through it and I use that and talk to my clients and say, tell me about the process. Tell me about what happened. And I turn that into either a demand letter, which is the facts of the case, which is the law they violated. And then I say, this is what we want.
So Jesse, you have a report that gets done, and that shows you, it uncovers some of the compliance violations. But what about just unfair business practices and predatory lending? Lean into that just a little bit for us if you can.
Well, the predatory lending aspect was taking advantage of people when they come in. Some people qualified. If you had a 750 credit score and you came in and you should have qualified for a 5% loan, but they said, whoever the lender was, they said, well, you have a great credit score, but our loan package that we can offer you is 7.5, and that's as good as we can do. Well, they weren't being honest with you. They can make money on the 5%, but they intentionally put more points on there to make more money.
So
even though
the
you could
system
qualify.
allowed for the broker to make more money by charging the customer a higher interest rate than they qualified for. So the brokers and the banks weren't on our side in that scenario.
No, you would expect them to be on your side, but brokers at that point
You
were
would?
just
Really?
listen.
I think we're going to have a difference of opinion now.
Well, we're talking 10 years ago. Now you look back, you're like, wow, I can't believe you were in it just for the 2 extra points and me losing my house.
A lot of it has to do with capacity. I mean, when a lender has a fiduciary responsibility to do through due diligence to ensure that the consumer has capacity to repay the loan based on the schedule or the amortization of the loan over time. A lot of these loans, how in the world are you going to do that when you're not even collecting any data, because these loans were no documentation, low documentation, or stated income? In the light of day, today, looking back, you look at that and you say there's no way in the world that they were meeting their fiduciary responsibility. At the time, nobody really cared because the value of homes was going up so fast that if the bank ever foreclosed, it really didn't matter because the bottom line is the house would be worth more than what they had financed against it. Today, it's all different. And now we look at these loans very differently. And let's also not be coy. Craig, your business is all about doing the audits to provide the information for Jesse to be able to go to work and try to litigate these issues that you're able to find in those loans.
Well, not all these reports are the same. I mean, there's different level of forensic audits out there. Jesse, speak to the quality of the reports and the audits that you use in court.
I'll give you one example. About 3 years ago, the client I was talking about earlier approached me, and they said they paid somebody an exorbitant amount of money for this expert report, and I said, "Oh, great, let me take a look at it." It was 2 pages, and the amount of money that they paid, it was like $2,000 a page, basically. And I said, "What is this?" And he said, "Well, I sent it to my lender because I thought this would help me get a modification." Well, it ended up hurting him because the numbers weren't even accurate.
Wow.
They weren't even put in right. The date of the loan wasn't even accurate. And so we had to dig him out of that hole to get him to the position where he could even be on equal footing, not even having the leverage yet, but get him back to equal footing. Not all reports are created equal. The expert that I use, the reports that I get are 30 pages long, detailed reports.
How does that help you? So now you have the goods, you have the bullets. Tell me what happens?
It's very helpful because when I put together a complaint or when I conceptualize a lawsuit, you need everything detailed in the lawsuit. You need everything detailed in the complaint because that's the only way that the lender is going to pay attention to you.
It's not about shirking your responsibility here at Cover Your Assets. It's about finding out where you are and dealing with it. CoverYourAssets21.com.
Mow his lawn. Another Pleasant Valley Sunday. Charcoal burning everywhere. Rows of houses that are all the same, and no one seems to care.
WWTC Minneapolis St. Paul.
A service of Salem Communications.
Life presents many legal matters. Who will you turn to if you need representation? Daniels and Wymore PLLC is a full-service law firm equipped to represent businesses and individuals. They counsel you through virtually any legal matter. Whether you're starting a business and you need to draft the necessary documents, you need litigation representation, estate planning, or even help defending your home from foreclosure. It doesn't matter whether you're a wealthy entrepreneur, a startup business, or an average individual looking for excellent legal counsel. You'll get the best possible representation at Daniels and Wymore. There's a lot at stake when it comes to legal matters, and you can count on our attorneys to bring their A-games every time. Call 763-201-1215. That's 763-201-1215. Or meet them online at dnwlawfirm.com. Daniels and Wymore PLLC, providing ethical, tenacious, and cost-effective representation in the areas of business transactions, litigation, and estate planning. dnwlawfirm.com.
Who would you rather trust with a huge financial decision? A company trying to stir up interest, or a company who helps you discover what's in your best interest? You won't find outrageous claims or dancing banner ads at Rubicon Mortgage Advisors. Only seasoned professionals with over 40 years of mortgage and management experience. They'll help you make the best choices for your complete financial picture, now and in the future. Rubicon Mortgage Advisors is in business for the long run, a mission they live and breathe every day. Buying a home, refinancing, or investing in real estate is a big move. So they listen and guide people with honesty and unequaled personal service. Contact Matt Grant at Rubicon Mortgage Advisors for more information or to apply. Learn more about their locally based luxury service experience at RubiconMortgageAdvisors.com. That's RubiconMortgageAdvisors.com. Equal Opportunity Lender NMLS number 275483.